was like, I just want to let everyone know I'm committed to the PGA Tour. I haven't been asked about the Saudi League. No one wants me over there. But I'm committed to the PGA Tour.
Canada's Matt Hughes, I think, right? It's Matt Hughes.
Why would you waste Vaseline on a golf club when there's so many better uses for it?
Hey everyone, welcome to Reading the Green and our golf DFS preview show. It's Tuesday, February 22nd. My name is Mike, joined with Kyle and Jordan. And remember that RTG, Reading the Green, is the only fantasy golf resource that combines great player picks with insights on which fantasy experts actually give the best advice. The result is we have a biased-free approach. We're not swayed by any one article we read or one podcast we listen to. If you like this approach, if you have fun listening to us, please follow us on our YouTube channel, Reading the Green, any of the major podcast platforms. You can follow us on Twitter at RTG Podcast DFS. We have new episodes every Wednesday morning and lots of content in between. We have a listener league. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. You can play golf DFS with us on DraftKings every week. We have lots of fun doing that and meeting some of our listeners. So please reach out on how to get involved in the listener league. This week, we're going to cover the Genesis Invitational recap and look ahead to the Honda Classic, and got a few other topics in golf and beyond to hit on. But first, I'm on vacation in Naples, Florida, or just north of Naples in the Bonita area with my family and my in-laws. Kyle and Jordan, you guys are under a foot of snow in the Twin Cities. I'm not jealous.
Jordan's fine. He just got back from Arizona, and it's not near a foot. We got a little bit of a cold couple days here. You know, thanks for leaving us with this crap, but we'll survive.
Yeah, the storm fizzled out here. Further north, I think we got 4 inches. I think maybe 5.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. I was checking the Nest Cam. Okay, all right. That's
yeah. It's like right on 4 or 5 here as well, but it is way too cold for. And we're supposed to be starting to warm up by now, and it's 5 degrees out. Come on.
I think long range forecast was in the 30s. Right when I get home, it looks like it's going to turn. So that's great.
So yeah, I'm going off kilter already here, but there was something on the golf social media this week of a guy saying I'm ready for golf season, and he climbs out of a frozen lake, hits a ball, and starts walking. Did either of you see that?
No. Can we?
I'll find it and retweet. Yeah.
All right.
It for some reason popped in my mind when we were talking about that.
You know what? The lengths people go to for some viral content, but here we are contributing. But that sounds pretty bold. All right. Well, I got obviously got a bunch of nuggets before we get into the Genesis recap. First, Jordan, we missed you last week. We hope you enjoyed your vacation. There's a lot of swag stuff going on. Last couple of weeks, there were some big releases. The group here scored some big wins. We've had some big fails. What's been happening with swag golf?
It's been crazy. Waste management, always a big one. Mike won the lottery, which literally do a lottery for a cover. Mike won it, got a sweet cover that he immediately resold without even.
I never saw it.
But that's how you get the value. You guarantee value that way, Mike. Good choice. And then President's Day is always one of their biggest releases. So yesterday, I don't know, Kyle, you and I were on the site trying to buy stuff. I think they released 10, 12, maybe 13 items all within 5 minutes. It was chaos. It was as quickly as something would pop up, you would try and get it. You wouldn't get it. Another item would be popping up.
But especially when you're on a conference call at the same time.
That's why
I was wondering, Jordan, what you meant by it saying that it was just chaos on the site. So it wasn't like they had technical issues. It was just there was just products coming up all the time in different spots. Yeah. Yeah,
a new towel every 30 seconds. They did every denomination of U.S. dollar bill in towels. They did the $1, $5, $10, $20, $50, $100, all released within 45 seconds of each other. It was.
So you got a Lincoln towel. What is that because you wanted the Lincoln towel, or that's just like that's what you got because stuff was going so fast?
One I happened to get.
Okay, all right.
Did you try for every towel, or
not for everyone? Because sometimes I'd be back to the screen and it'd already be sold out. Like the next one, like I tried for the $10 one, failed, got back. $20 one had already popped up and sold out. So it was. And my proprietary method of buying things doesn't work when there's lots of things that you're trying to buy. It's a kind of a shoot your shot thing.
Well, I was really trying to put your method to the test and do it from airplane Wi-Fi. And I had it set up perfectly. Kids were great. The little one was asleep for over an hour, and I had a great window. Noon Central, right over the noon Central hour to get on and take a shot. Turned out the release was at 11, and I missed it by a solid hour. Spent a few bucks on airplane Wi-Fi so I could check my email. And
we hadn't heard from Mike for a good 40 minutes, and I messaged Jordan. I'm like, well, the kids must not have been behaving, or
it was perfect. It was perfect. I just totally whiffed on the release time. So sometimes they do 11, sometimes they do 12. Like I need to be a little better on that.
Yeah, especially when you read the email in the morning that said 11 and it had a countdown.
I read it at the gate. I said, okay, I gotta just make sure I'm ready for this. And but yeah, oh well. I'm sure they'll be. I know the Masters weekend is a big weekend for them.
Yeah,
they're gonna drops every Sunday, right?
Yes, they just started this Sunday. They're going to do a skull cover every Sunday. They haven't said if it's going to be at the same time. This one was a surprise, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And then April 1st is their Swagiversary. And last year, I think they dropped like 25 items, all hours of the day happening. So that's the next big one, right before the Masters.
Yeah, perfect. I'm looking forward to that. I had a couple of thoughts in golf and in fantasy a little bit. We just talked about this like 2 weeks ago, but lock time issues. And I know this one wasn't Matt Fitzpatrick withdrew, and he withdrew about an hour before the contest started. But I guess the problem is, people are just into their days and all that. You had like between like 7:30 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. to get Matt Fitzpatrick out of your lineups. We tweeted that he had a tummy ache on Wednesday and that we should be paying close attention to him. And then we certainly tweeted out that he withdrew, but he had one of the first tee times. So even if DraftKings didn't change their platform, you probably wouldn't have had much of a chance anyways. But guys are just doing this. Like I feel like there's got to be a way to swap guys in and out a little more easily, other than having the one lock time.
Completely agree. The one thing about Fitzpatrick, as you said, it was the first tee time of the day, and he had withdrawn from the program the day before. So I did put him in a couple lineups Wednesday, but made sure I checked that right away.
Yeah, we were on
before Thursday.
Yeah.
So I feel like that one's a touch of user error. But
it was, yeah. Well, and we had a couple of guys in our listener league that played Fitzpatrick, including my cousin, who deserves a shout out for, jumping into DraftKings with both feet and joining our listener league. But I'm sure learning his lesson with checking his lineups right before the lock time. So the other golf topic I had was around the Saudi Golf League. And I know everyone's probably just exhausted themselves reading about this in the last 5 days, which is crazy because I feel like we didn't even think about it when we recorded last week. And 7 days later, it's just totally exploded. But Kyle, you just said one of Phil's sponsors already dropped him. One of his biggest sponsors.
His hat sponsor for the last, 20 years? Yeah, KPMG. Yeah. And he said he gave all of his sponsors an out. He's like, if you don't want to be with me anymore, and they were the first to pull it.
And that's the one thing I never really got about this for some of the guys. Yeah, their on-course earnings could be a lot higher, but you would think the long-term potential from a sponsorship standpoint would be smaller, right? They're not getting as front of as many golf eyeballs in a week. I know, population wise, other parts of the world, but golf can't be watched everywhere as much as in the United States, I would believe, right?
I don't know. There's some markets are pretty nuts, and I'm not close enough to like the Asian tour in what that is around like viewership. But what have you guys? What other players did you hear? Any other names specifically other than Bryson seemed like he was in? I heard Kokrak. I heard Anthony Kim might be coming out of like years of retirement, but like at the end of the day. Was anybody really going to be bothered by the 20 players that are going to be on this list? Like,
once DJ was officially out, once a player like at his stature isn't going to go with all the other guys that have already said they weren't, then that seemed like a kind of a glass house at that point, right? It was just a matter of time till something cracked it and it all came tumbling down.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going away. But
the article that I was reading about, the article about Phil said he made $40 million in endorsements last year. Like,
that's my point. Yeah, but
it's not worth it to go over there
for him. Yeah, for him.
Yeah.
Well,
I did like. I think it was. Did you see Harry Higgs tweet? It was like, I just want to let everyone know I'm committed to the PGA Tour. I haven't been asked about the Saudi League. No one wants me over there, but I'm committed to the PGA Tour.
That's like
that's what we need.
Yeah, that's like the college players that write like the big long sentimental letter to say that they're returning to their team. They're not leaving. That's awesome. Well, if any of this stuff that's being said about the PGA Tour is like a fraction of it is true, then I hope the PGA Tour actively continues to improve its product and prevent something like this from being too disruptive. If they just sit back and assume it's going to go away every time, then eventually it's going to come in and blow something up. So anyways, probably nothing really new at this point, but certainly just a lot of action in the last 5 days.
And from a selfish perspective, like I want the PGA Tour to continue as is. I want to be able to have the events like this to play DFS on every week, and so I'm glad the Saudi thing seems to be going by the wayside.
All right, let's talk about the Genesis Invitational a little bit. I don't know how much of you Jordan, I know you were coming back from vacation, so I don't know how much you caught of it, but Joaquin Niemann finishes off a wire-to-wire performance. It was pretty impressive. It seemed like he might crack a little bit down the stretch. There was a couple of chances for guys to sneak in there. Cameron Young certainly hung around. Morikawa got close at the end. But Niemann, when he is on, he tends to torch the field a bit. The other event that he won, which I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was by more than 5 strokes. He was kind of on that pace this weekend, and he always seems to be a guy that's got 62 or 63 in the bag. It's just whether or not he also throws a 75 in on the weekend and kind of blows up his chances. But he was great. The one thing I thought was really cool, which we've seen more and more of the last handful of years, but guys' buddies hang around events. Like even if they've missed the cut, some guys hang around the weekend. They finished earlier. They hang on the 18th green and they greet the guys that are winning when they come off. So this one, he must be friends with Sergio and Mito Pereira, obviously a countryman, Carlos Ortiz, Jonathan Vegas, a couple of Mexico and South American guys. And so all those guys were there on the 18th green to congratulate him. And I think that's cool seeing some of that camaraderie. Not the case when Tiger was winning all these events. And I know that was a different time and different era, but I don't know. Makes it seem like they're having a lot of fun out there.
Yeah, I think it was one of the guys on Twitter that actually said all those Spanish-speaking players that you mentioned, they at most events rent a house together and bring in a chef together and everything and have lively dinners, is what he said. So that one stuck out to me as well. Yeah, it's just cool to see the guys hanging out. I'm glad Niemann got it done again. He's a player I've been drawn to. I like watching him. I like watching how he attacks the course. So, and He was a big part of my weekend, so I was glad to have him.
Yeah, we'll get into that. I know you had a good weekend.
Yeah.
So Mike, who stayed around for Hoagie's win? Does anyone know Tom Hoagie yet? Was anyone on the 18th green for him?
The only guy would have been former Pine de Palm player Eric Van Rooyen. Would have been the only guy. I don't think he played at Pebble Beach, but that's the only other guy I could think of. There aren't very many Fargo, North Dakota golfers that are on the PGA Tour. So,
speaking of EVR, little mea culpa here. Last week Jordan did submit a pick. He texted me as we were recording, make sure you put out my EVR pick, and I forgot. So he was on EVR. He made the cut. Had a little trouble on Sunday, but hey, he would have been a good part of a cash lineup at that price.
He would have been.
Yeah, he would have. He would have brought me back against the winner of our listener league if he would have not crapped his pants on Sunday.
Yeah,
I think I would have had a chance.
Jordan, I know you're a big Patrick Reed fan. Is he getting enough? Is he getting enough attention for? I'll call it Pocketgate.
I think I wash all my stuff with the inside of my pockets. You don't want to get your pants dirty. Like, have you ever been to a car wash and pulled out your pocket and scrubbed a little spot off your car? Yeah, everyone does it. It's a very normal interaction to do.
Then you could just never put your hand in your pocket.
Not sketchy at all.
Well, I kind of get the rationale. Like, he's wearing pristine white pants, but the way that he does it in that video was so sketchy that it's just, you have to think he's up to no good. And some of the Twitter conversation was like, well, what would he realistically be doing to his club that would give him an advantage on a wedge? I get it. It's Patrick Reed. What's he doing?
Yeah, is there anything that you can do? Because if so, I need to start doing it when I golf.
I saw some people, so one thing that, like, on a driver face, you'll hear people put, like, you throw some Vaseline on there and it will take some of the spin off the ball so you can hit a little straighter. But on, like, a wedge, you'd want more spin maybe. Wait. So they thought maybe you'd run some, like, sandpaper on there and just kind of, like, rough the grooves up a little bit for that shot. I don't know. Who knows?
Why would you waste Vaseline on a golf club when there's so many better uses for it?
I know. I understand. I don't know that that's a practice much anymore, but I know. I got you. Anyways, then he had an issue where he had a lost ball, and they found it like seconds after the timer ran out. And the guy can't avoid controversy, but whatever. He missed the cut by like 8 shots, so we didn't have to deal with it on the weekend.
His caddy is a huge swag guy, though.
Well, and we like swag, so maybe there's an in there.
Yeah.
Can we talk about my favorite hole yet?
We can, please, Kyle.
Hole 10.
We're talking golf. Sorry, Kyle.
I just love watching hole 10 at Riviera. Just the difference in strategy approach. I saw that on the stats they kept showing on the broadcast of drivable par 4s on the PGA Tour. It is the least hit green of any of the drivable par 4s.
Like impossible to hit.
Correct. Yet everyone is pulling out a driver, almost everyone, but they're pulling out a driver. And the fact that most of the guys will aim well left and are perfectly okay with hitting it to a batch of trees to avoid ending up right of the green just shows how difficult that shot is, and that right to left slope on the green. You had a drive on Sunday, the one that kind of killed me, go right into a bunch of porta potties. It's a fun hole to watch. I really enjoyed the Future Holes group this week to be able to see a lot of 10.
Yeah, that's a good point about the broadcast, is when you have a course that's got something like that, to just flip that on and see what happens. We tweeted it out. It's very similar to the 6th hole at the Pine de Palm Golf Course in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. And I'm joking a little bit, but it is a 290-yard par 4 with 2 gigantic trees that kind of flank the front side of the green on both sides of the fairway. And, hitting like a 6-iron into the fairway and then having a wedge, like, you're blocked out to most pins. So guys will just hit driver intentionally a few yards left of the green in the rough. You hope you're not behind a tree, but if you're not, then it's just a chip. And that strategy on 10 at Riviera kind of evolved because I hadn't really seen guys a while, years ago hit it in those trees on the left side. But as long as I think JT hit one like between two branches.
Yes,
they're basically just saying, as long as I'm not stymied directly behind a tree, that's not a hard chip.
It's funny you bring up JT though, because he laid up through the 4 days with an iron.
Except that one time.
Yeah. That's the only time he hit driver. And a lot of guys hit 3 woods trying to end up just short left there, but he, especially on Sunday, he had an iron. But through the 4 days, he had an iron. He's about the only one.
Yeah.
What he said, he's in between club. Like he doesn't. I think he said he doesn't have a 3 wood. He only has a 5 wood. So he can't get far enough up with the 3 woods. Then he lays back, but then he stuck it freaking tight on Sunday. I think it was Sunday. I don't remember which day I was watching, Saturday or Sunday, but he stuck it tight, and then Cameron Young duffed it into the bunker.
Yeah, you just saw everything there. You guys ended up right, and then chipped over the green into the bunker.
Right.
Chipped short of the green into the bunker. It's just a fun hole to watch, and it's different than there's a lot of short par 4s like that, like 17 at Waste Management, where there's water and it's visually fun. Where this hole from the tee probably doesn't look that impressive, but you can tell it's really tough.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Would you want to play it if you were lucky enough to belong there? Like, would you want to play that hole every day? Like, it's a gimmick, right? And it's a thing that once a year on tour, it's a fun thing. But if you had to play that yourself, well, Kyle, you'd be okay because your driver wouldn't get there.
But I was going to say that cross bunker at 280 is no big deal to me, guys.
Sorry. Hey, Mike, this question's for you, Mike.
Right? Yeah, most of the membership at Riviera is just, hacking it down the fairway and has a 9-iron anyways. Now, I don't know. It's a good question because that's the thing about some of these really hard golf courses is, it's hard to play those holes every single day. I would probably be in the camp of just ripping driver up there and just hoping I have a clean look. I can chip it. I can chip it. A bad chip's gonna be closer than a decent wedge most of the time. So that's kind of how I would think about it.
Yep.
On results overall, Kyle, you had a great week in your tournament lineups. You cashed. I know you cashed everything, but it did pretty well.
Yeah, cashed a full all 20 lineups in a 20 max, which is fun to have. I'm really starting to dig the cascading core approach. Thank you, Mike. I know some
Rick
of the
Demon, not me, Rick.
Well, I was going to say I know some of the big DFS guys out there are big fans of it, but you were the first one in our crew to be a proponent of it. Worked out well for me, especially when you have all 6 of your core make the cut.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, couldn't take down my first 20 max victory. I was so close. Actually, I think with 3 holes left on Sunday, I was first and second in a contest. But unfortunately, Morikawa getting into second knocked me down. So, but out of the top 10 in that contest, I took home 6 spots. So great week GPP wise. I'll talk about that and just forget about cash.
All right.
You prematurely texted us.
No, I knew
it. A screenshot of I'm in first, second, and third here, guys.
No, hey, you didn't read the text. I'm like, hey, I got to capture this while I can because I knew it was not going to end well, like based on holes left and who was out there. So, yeah.
Well, good for you. Good week. It's fun to do that, and it's just the risk reward of that strategy. But when it pays off, it really does. As contributor wise, we talked about it. We talked about it last week. We knew Mayo was on Morikawa and McIntyre, and that was really against the grain in our model. Neither of those guys got a lot of love across the other DFS experts that we track. Lo and behold, Morikawa finishes in second. McIntyre was up there top 15. I can't remember exactly where he finished up, but so Mayo was onto something there and gave 2 really great plays. We talked about Sobel also having a decent spot to start your lineups with Justin Thomas and Eric Van Rooyen, who EVR was really just had a weak Sunday, but other than that, put together a decent event. I stepped on 2 landmines, Thomas Peters and Christian Bezadenhout. those were near the top of our model, and I had both of them in a couple of my cores, and that just kind of ruined the weekend from being a little bit better.
Yeah, add Tom Foggy onto that list for me. I had never once put him in a full week lineup, and I was like, you know what? He's high up in a thing. I'm gonna give it a try.
Yeah, you got to follow my lead on Tom Hoagie. Yeah, I know when he's gonna peak. So you just gotta.
If Mike doesn't talk about him, stay away, guys. Stay away.
I'm gonna keep him in my daily. He's been very good for me in daily showdowns. So, but no more. Tom's
so Mike, you mentioned Bazoon Ho. I feel like I kind of got to dive on that mine. He was my guy last week. I'm not staying away though. A little hint there, but yeah, it's unfortunate to see him miss a cut. It had been a while and just wasn't his week.
I didn't. I think I tweeted this at some point in response to someone, but I think 5 of the 6 or 6 of the 7 Australians made the cut, and Adam Scott, shoots up the leaderboard over the weekend. So again, I'll say it again, Kikuya, Australian golfers, it's a great matchup, and they were very successful this weekend.
I got him every time the announcer said Kikuya. I giggle a little bit, but yeah, Adam Scott was huge for me. He was part of my core until he hit into the shitters on 10. He was looking a lot better on Sunday, and you mentioned it, Mike, but overall, a solid week for the MPI. Everyone in the top 10 had multiple mentions for us, which is, I don't know, has ever been done. It wasn't the necessarily high mention share guys, but it was the guys with a couple, mentions anywhere from 10% to 30%, the high MPI. So good week overall for our approach.
Yeah, good stuff. We want to hit on beers real quick, and then we'll take a break and then talk about the Honda. I'm in Florida, so I was looking for things that were a little lighter, a little fruitier, but I'm drinking Maui pineapple mana, which is
a little lighter, a little fruitier.
It's hot. It's 85 degrees here. Don't worry. I have for the second half here, I have a really good IPA. We can't get in Minnesota. I'm going to get it from the fridge in a couple minutes.
Well, 2 things. One, bring some back for us. And the other,
I can do that.
You're drinking Hawaiian beer in Florida. You went to a Florida liquor store and bought Hawaiian beer.
I went to Total Wine, and the Florida section there is. I need to find like a real liquor store because it's a little meh.
Okay.
No offense to Total Wine. We love Total Wine. If
you could see our faces, Kyle and I are judging Mike right now. I'm going with the final of my Noon Whistle Northeast IPA collection, which is the Gummy Vortex. It's delicious as always, super hazy. Noon Whistle does some good stuff.
I'm going to sound like a broken record. I need to get over to my favorite liquor store here, but still, War Pigs, Three Floyds, McKellar, Foggy Geezer, Hazy IPA, third week in a row. Hey, the 6-pack's almost gone.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk about the Honda Classic. Welcome back. We have the second half of our show. We're going to preview the Honda Classic. First, we have our RTG Listener League on DraftKings. We host that every week for our listeners. We're getting a couple new ones each week, so the league is growing. This week, we had a new winner, wire to wire, just like Joaquin Niemann. This was, I'll go with Arano WM12. Really broke away from the field in the league here through the first 36 holes, was really crushing it. But Jordan, you gave him a run for his money down the stretch, needed a better Sunday out of Van Rooyen. But so we have another new Listener League champion. And that's fun. That's why we do it. We want to engage with our listeners. We're happy to, give a few bucks out of our pockets and make our listeners happy. So we encourage more to reach out and join the league.
I thought I had a chance. I know he had 6 players. I had 6 players. But man, if Niemann would have faltered, Would have had a much better chance, but he just ran away with it.
Yep. I think this week, we will, at some point on Wednesday, if you're listening to this earlier today, Wednesday, we will tweet out a link to join that contest with the number of spots we have remaining to try to fill it out for this week. So stay tuned later in the day on Wednesday, and we will get information on how to join that. But of course, you can reach out, and we will send you an invite as well. Before that, get to the Honda, one more comment. Did get another beer because everyone's making fun of me for my Maui brewing. This is Parish Brewing, Ghost in the Machine. This is one of their harder to get IPAs, but because I'm down in Florida, I can get it. Can't get it in Minnesota, but 99 on Beer Advocate. Certainly a very tasty IPA, guys. They have plenty of it at Total Wine. I'll go back and get a 4-pack, and I'll bring it back. Okay.
Sounds great.
Did you bring a whole extra suitcase just for beer? Like, I know you've got a friend that.
No, but apparently apparently I can do, for whatever reason, up to 70 pounds on Delta so I got room in my golf bag for at least 20 pounds of beer.
Pack them in.
Yeah.
Pack them in.
All right. Honda Classic at PGA National in Palm Beach, Florida. This is one of the harder setups on tour. Tons of water on the golf course. Usually there's tons of wind. A lot's going to be made about the number of balls that are hit into the water in the bear trap on the tail end of this golf course. Matt Jones won at -12 last year, which I think is quite a bit lower than what you typically see. I think typically you see single digits under par winning this golf tournament, and it's really just who's going to make the most pars throughout the week and just kind of keep their momentum going. I saw some funny stuff in some of the prep that was like, we make such a big deal about this is finally a real tough test after a pretty easy spring. Just watch someone go out now and shoot like 20 under for the weekend, and we'll all be laughing that these guys are actually really good. But yeah, so tougher setup. Before we jump into the model, Kyle, and hit on the top plays, I had a question. Is Brooks Koepka, is he a sponsor of this? Or I read something that said he is giving one of his exemptions to his brother Chase to play in the field. So do you guys know if he's involved in the tournament setup?
I do not. I did see that both Koepkas were in.
Yeah,
I
but
did not
an
see the why.
From Brooks. So I don't know what that means.
Mike, if you ever get an exemption to something, can I play?
No, I think Tom's going to give me an exemption to play in one of these events coming up.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, let's talk about the model. I know we're not totally filled in from our contributors quite yet, but most about 75% are in, 75, 80%. So Kyle, how are things shaping up?
Yeah, a couple course thoughts before I dive all the way in. You mentioned how difficult this is of a course, how much water is out there. You're going to have some guys that look good Friday afternoon that all of a sudden enter the bear trap and, shoot 2, 3, 4 over at that point in time and miss the cut. So I would say, especially for GPPs and maybe even some of your pivot cash play games, this would be a studs and duds type week. Just try to hope you can hit some of those lower price point guys that can, make the cut and make you some points on the weekend. And then next would be, there's always the horses for the course, guys that play well. But here, I would say that's historically even higher than normal. A lot of our contributors pointed that out in their write-ups this week as we were building out our model is, hey, guys that have won here had always played previously and always and usually finish in the top 13 their previous event. So a couple things to keep in mind as you're building out your lineups. So yeah, as we get over to our mention share at this point, we have 5 guys that are popping over 40%. Pretty high on the price point though, so you have to take that with a grain of salt. But at this point, yes, you have Sanjay, you have Keith Mitchell, you have Louis Oosthuizen, Daniel Berger, and Billy Horschel. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of up and down in the MPI there. We are still waiting on a couple of our contributors at this standpoint, and a couple that usually have done pretty well for us. So that might boost MPI, but it's a little of a, I guess, gray picture right now, Mike.
All right. A couple of things. Oh, go ahead, Jordan.
I was going to say, so Kyle, what you're saying is that a couple of the top 5 are being mentioned a lot by our bad contributors, and a few are being mentioned by our good contributors.
You're correct. Yeah, there's both sides of it. So the good thing is, late afternoon or early evening tomorrow, we will tweet out the highest in our model by MPI and the highest by mention share. And MPI, I know you wanted to hit on this too, Mike, right? Is mention power index. So it is tracking which of our contributors have week in, week out been the best at recommending plays for us. We have our own formula we've put together to track that. And the higher the MPI a player has, the better contributors that are mentioning them.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks for coming back to that, because I think it's good for us to just remind everyone why our approach is a little different and why we talk so much about the fantasy expert community, because that's exactly what we do. We track the performance of the experts that we've pooled together into our data set. And we try to measure both how much love a player gets each week with how strong of performers those experts talking about those players actually are. Because at the end of the day, and I talk a lot about guys like Pat Mayo, the end of the day is actually using data to prove which fantasy golf resources are actually the best. And for us, it's all about body of work. So we tweet out, hey, Pat Mayo had the best week. No, he didn't pick Neiman, but pairing up Morikawa and McIntyre was a really good place to start a 6-player lineup. And so that's what we're searching for as we look at the dozens of sources that we track each week. And so, Kyle, you hit it on the head that, we're measuring really 2 things: how much love a player gets, that's our share, and then how strong that conversation is around that player, and that's our power index. You'll also see us talk, from week to week, and then tweet out our monthly contributor rankings. But we do have a performance index for the experts themselves. And we score them on a score of 0 to 100 each week. So lots of we'll call it unconventional approaches here, but it really does work. And it's a great way to zero in on the right content to be consuming if you're a DFS fan.
But man, sometimes it gives you someone you don't want to pick. I don't want to lead with Louis Oosthuizen. I've never been a Louis fan, none of that. And I've got him in my core lineup. You'll see he'll be in my fan contest. And I'm just like, that's a regrettable tap on my phone.
So that's a great transition. Mike, I want to go right into my 3 picks of the week.
Go ahead. So
Jordan also already mentioned Oosthuizen. I'm going to do it. He has a high mention share. At this point, he's over 40%. He is one of the best MPIs of the players above 4 mentions. He's right around 70 at this point in time. And Mayo's on him. So he is going to be a part of my core this week. I'm going to have him in a lot of lineups. Next, I'm going to go down the board a little bit to try to find some value. That is one thing that hasn't came real clear yet. As we wait for a couple more contributors to come in. But I'm intrigued by Ian Poulter as a value cash play. I think I would stick to him in more of those cash type lineups, but he's at 7,600. He's coming in with a strong MPI, and some of our contributors that are on him this week usually provide pretty good cash advice. So, and then lastly, and this gets to Jordan's point, I can't believe I'm saying this. We'll see if I can even if I can get the name out of my mouth, because he's burned me really bad 2 of the last 4 weeks. Aaron Wise.
Oh, I thought you were going Brooksy. That was a
no.
I thought you were going Brooksy.
Aaron Wise killed me at the Farmers. Killed me at Pebble. But here we go. I am going to have some of them this week as well. High mention share at this point. He's in that grouping right behind those top 5, and a decent MPI. We'll see how it shakes out, but with that mention, Sharon, he's still going to be somewhere in my lineup. Still waiting to see if he's going to be part of my core.
I really thought you were pulling the trigger on Brooksy.
No, he would be a guy that like got excited by the bear trap, playing in Florida, playing with his brother, but no, he's in my bucket. I'll bring him. He's coming in my lineup at the Masters, not before.
I looked it up. This is his hometown. The course is in his hometown.
And that's
He must be a sponsor. He must be a player sponsor, and that's why he has exemptions to invite his brother.
But his brother
What's his
also,
course history here, though, Jordan?
That I don't pay attention to details like that. I did see his brother though finish 26th in a PGA Tour event last year in Minnesota. So he's legit. His brother Chase is legit.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was thinking when Kai was pumping up who that third pick was, I was looking down the board for some innuendo or joke that could be made about somebody's name because
Jordan was getting excited. I wasn't sure.
I thought for sure. I thought, well, Brooksy, he's at 54% MPI, which is the first time he's probably been above 20 in the last 2 months. So
I think
he's
you're
not
right.
A bad play this week. I'm not picking him either, but just I thought you were going Brooksy.
Well, Jordan, where are you at this week?
Well, so I've already told you I'm regrettably in on Louis, but he's consistent. He's going to make the cut. So that's why I'm okay with it. He's not going to win. I don't know when the last time he won a PGA Tour event, but he's pretty consistent all the time. The other one I'm going with, I think it was Mayo again, the Michael Thompson. He has, I believe, our highest MPI right now. One of our highest. Yeah. The only person that's at 100 on the MPI. So he's my value play of the week. Mayo plus the MPI, going for it. And then real deep value, going with the swag connection, is Kevin Streelman. I don't think he's officially sponsored by them, but he uses their head covers. That's how dedicated he is to the swag.
Why would he use that head cover if he's not sponsored?
He's got I don't know if he's from Chicago. He has the Chicago dog. They make these special Chicago dog covers, and he's had one on his bag for a year or two. So I'm going Kevin Streelman there.
He's not a swag player. He wasn't on the Ryder Cup team, so I assume he's on his computer during a drop, just trying to get in there. And,
I think
our head cover.
I think if anyone from the PGA Tour calls them, I think they send them whatever cover they want.
That would be smart marketing, yes.
There were 2 or 3 that I didn't even know about at Riviera last week that had Cubs covers. So obviously Swag is out of Chicago, huge Cubs fans. They've made a couple different Cubs covers, and 2 players had one as a fairway cover and one as a driver cover. Different had it, but they aren't official Swag sponsored athletes.
As a side note, there was something going on with baseball. Kyle, you texted us, and I think Jonathan Vegas had an MLB fleece on.
No, it was Young.
Yeah.
Okay. So it had the MLB patch on the sleeve, and I was curious if that if he was sponsored by the MLB, and that was if it had something to do with the Players Association or MLB itself.
Interesting.
And was this part of the negotiating tactics for the whole lockout? I could talk a long time about that. When we go down that bubble.
Interesting. Well, let me round out with a couple of picks. I will also I will give the third opinion on Ustays, and it just seems like the model is really lining up on him being the pick. If you're going to go, if we're going to go above 10K, he's the guy to start with. I know Im is this is his spot. He always plays great here, but it seems like there's maybe some other options that might be a little bit cheaper and just and give some of the same value. So Ustays, Billy Horschel, the guy's a grinder. His short game's been amazing the last couple of tournaments. So I think that's going to need to be something that needs to be relied on to do well here.
Another Florida guy.
You're right. He's a Florida Gator. And this seems like a good spot for him. And then the third guy that I'll lean on that had popped in the model, reasonably well is Canada's Matt Hughes, I think, right? It's Matt Hughes.
Sorry, that's a joke of you.
That's a callback. That's a callback to several episodes ago. Mackenzie Hughes is going to be most likely in my tournament core and then a number of cash lineups.
Like I said, I'm not a details person in this.
I know you're not.
I follow this,
you don't even know when we're making jokes to make fun of you.
I was like, Matt Hughes. I think he means Mackenzie Hughes. Maybe there might be a Matt Hughes on there. I don't know.
Kyle, what about tiers? I know it's kind of a weird week for tiers.
Yeah, weird week for tiers. I did have one other play I wanted to mention because might have got a great tip from a friend of the pod, or I would call him our gambling expert at this point, Mr. Derek. So Chase and I might correct me if I say his last name wrong. Seifert?
I think it might be Seifert, but I
don't
know Chase. So
he just got in today he was in the Q School playoff this week. There was like a 20-guy playoff. It was crazy.
Oh, the Monday qualifier.
Yeah, but he didn't win that, but somebody withdrew and he got in. So he is 6,400, but he is the top 30 in Vegas. So do with that what you will. He's only $6,400, but he's top 30 in Vegas, and I believe he was the top 5 here last year. So fun little
nice tip. It's a nice tip.
Fun little tip there.
Here.
Yeah. So tiers. This week I think we're going to talk about tier 4, jumping around a little bit. Tier 4 has a lot of, I guess I would say, like some of the names that we talked about a lot last week. Has Cameron Young, who obviously had a great week last week. Has Mizuno, who we talked about, that I still have a lot of faith in, but he's not the guy I think you need to go to in tier 4 this week. You could look at 2 at this point. If Brian Harmon, who is doing a little bit better in our MPI, but doesn't quite have as high a mention share as Keith Mitchell. Keith Mitchell has pretty high mention share at this point, one of our top 5 on our board, and he's a past winner here, and we mentioned that course history, so I think he's someone you got to look at strongly in tier 4.
This is where I'm struggling with tiers, because tier 4, tier 6, I think tier 3 also. Our lowest MPI is the most mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So tiers I usually go straight mentions along with like making sure they aren't the lowest. And all 3 of them are the lowest mention power. And I don't know what to do, Kyle. I don't know.
Yeah, I think tomorrow will help once we get the last 4 or 5 contributors in here. But you mentioned it's a tough week for tiers. There's some weeks I turn to as like, hey, I really like how tiers is shaking out. Last week was like that at the Genesis. You could get great value for the players you could get in tier 3, tier 4. So it works a little bit better to play those tiers contests. At least I prefer it in the contests that are a little deeper. When they're a good field, but not quite as deep, such as this one, you're starting to see people already, tier 3, tier 4 that.
I'm a little confused too on just, and I know that tiers, I know they try to categorize the players a little bit, but like Keith Mitchell is 9,100 this week, but he's down in tier 4.
I have a theory. I don't know if I've seen this somewhere, but that they set the tiers, I think, before the previous event. That's the only thing I can make sense of, like who's supposed to play, and then they adjust salaries after the finish of the previous event.
Okay.
Like a guy like Cameron Young, he wouldn't have, before last week, he wouldn't have been $8,600, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I think like he pops up into that, but like, and you have I don't know. That's my theory. I'd be really curious if anyone has any background into how they create these tier groupings. They try to put them as long hitters, short gamers, long shots. But yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, because in tier 2, you got guys, 9,200 and 9,900. But
this
you
is the
like
worst. This is the worst
Yeah.
tier 2 there's ever been.
Well, yeah,
you're picking between Tommy Fleetwood, Alex Noren, Matthew Wolf.
Keith Mitchell's been playing a lot better golf than all those guys, except for maybe Alex Noren.
So you're telling me, Mike, pick Keith Mitchell.
Yeah, you were bringing this up. So one last point on it. I'll let it go. If you sort our spreadsheet by salary, right, you would expect it to be, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, like a pretty good grouping. It's all over the freaking map. You have tier 1, tier 2, the third highest, most expensive guy, to my point previously, is Neiman. He's tier 2. So it feels like they put him in tier 2, and then he won last week, and so then they bumped up his salary. But then you go down all the way to the 12th most expensive guy, Matt Wolf, you're still in tier 2. You have tier 3 guys ahead of him, and then you have the guy right behind him, Keith Mitchell, tier 4. So it's a funky week.
It is a funky week. That's for sure. And going back to how we previewed the course, that things are gonna get mixed up a little bit come Friday afternoon. You're gonna have guys that just they don't make it through the bear trap. They're on the cut line. And it's gonna just totally shift your whole weekend for the better, for the worse. So, I guess good luck to everyone on this. It's a tough tournament to handicap with a weak field and a tough golf course. You just don't know who's going to show up. So we're doing the best we can here to try to find a little bit of an edge.
You're moving from the West Coast swing to Florida. You got a lot of differences there. You have a lot of guys. Yep. I think you brought this up earlier, Mike, that have been playing internationally that are now just rejoining the tour for the year.
That's a great point. Mm-hmm. Neiman and Young, long weekend for those guys, and they're gonna make the trip all the way across country and get ready to go on another tough golf course. And I know
off the high of the wins and competing, air travel's not like that big a deal, but hey, you have the adrenaline of playing on Sunday. It's got to be different. Trying to get up for a Thursday again.
Well. Looking forward to it.
All this tier talk, I meant to bring it up earlier, Mike. The guaranteed games in DraftKings. We all joined the same tiers last week, right? It was supposed to be, what was it, 600? I don't even know how many entries it was supposed to be.
I think there was 1,000. I think it was sized for 1,000 players, and it only filled just a few spots above the payout mark, and because it was guaranteed, they paid out everybody except for the 3 people.
So I'm not gonna lie. Thursday morning, I'm gonna be looking at tiers and seeing which cash games there's a $20 game that has 20 people in it and there's 3 people in it, but it's guaranteed payout. I'm gonna join that. It's an interesting loophole that I hadn't noticed before until all 3 of us.
For cash games, I've exploited that in a handful of cash games over the last 6 months, but never that extreme. It's always been maybe it fills at 90% or something like that, so you get a little bit of an edge. In cash games, it can be done. In tournaments, I don't know that it's as prevalent because I think DraftKings can spread out the entrance as long as contests are the same entry point and the same size. They can spread out entrance a little bit to even things out. But if it's the last contest of that entry fee and that size, then they've guaranteed it, and that's what they do. So
I did notice the tiers options at that price point this week were there were a lot smaller content. So I think that one was noticed.
It might have been, maybe it was a mistake. Who knows? But it was kind of a funny situation. All right. Well, that probably does it for the Honda. What else you guys have for tonight? Just to to round out the conversation. Other than Kyle exhausting the MLB Players Union debate, we could probably just record a whole separate podcast.
I got lots of thoughts. So I'll save that one.
I'll tell you, Mike, when you get back from vacation next week and after golfing this week, you're going to be really looking forward to spring. I'm sitting here in the snow. All I want to do, we drove by our club this week, and I was like, God, Rachel, I really want to, I can't wait to go golfing. Like, it's just, I didn't golf well. I golfed with rental clubs, whatever. Like, it was a handicap helper more than anything, but just being outside.
You know what it is, and for listeners that don't, live in a climate like we live in Minnesota, but it's when it gets lighter later, it's a little warmer. It doesn't feel just like the dead of winter, but there's still like 2 feet of snow on the ground and there's nothing you can do about it. That's the thing. It's taunting you. It's light till 7 o'clock. You feel like you should be out doing stuff and you can't for another 6 or 8 weeks. But yeah, I feel you. You come down to Florida and you're just like, it's like, oh, what have I been doing the last couple of months? But
yeah, why do I live in this miserable, lovely place?
Sim session soon.
We do. Yeah. We need a sim session. We got to record. We're going to record from there.
Like next Thursday, emergency pod on top of normal.
We should. You know what? This can happen. We can make it happen somewhere. We have enough access to simulators.
Yep.
Problem is, it's costing us money to rent a simulator. But
so click that subscribe button.
Yeah, click that subscribe button and we'll be able to record more podcasts from simulators. I think it's a great idea. So anyway, anything else other than just the clamoring for spring golf? It sounds like we're going to be talking about that for a few weeks. Masters weekend is always the toughest weekend because I feel like half the time we're getting a snowstorm and it's just taunting us seeing the pristine Augusta grounds. So this will probably be a theme for the rest of the spring. All right, we'll wrap it up for tonight. We got the Honda Classic preview in the books. Next week, we're going to talk about Bay Hill. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at RTG Podcast. Check out our final recommended plays tomorrow afternoon. Tweet at us if you want to join our listener league. Again, we'll probably have that link out there publicly at some point so that you can join the contest directly. We love to get to know our listeners and play DraftKings Golf DFS with you. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch up with everybody in a week. See ya.